And welcome to episode one of King Cobra Podcast. My name is Cobra.
I'm King Mark.
And again, this is episode one for the pilot. Just want to start it off and saying, how you doing today, King?
Yo, bro, almost 11:30 at night, bro. I'm ready to get this thing popping.
All ready to get it going. Get going. That's what I like to hear. That's what I like to hear. So we're starting off today on the list, King.
So we starting S tier list, and we starting from S tier movies. You had a few recommendations for a movie. Someone never seen it. What's it gonna be?
Sounds like a pretty solid day. It's gonna be a solid night, of course, of course. You want to start off this list on us?
All right, number one. I don't care what anyone says, bro, but for me, an S tier movie. If we talking about an underdog movie, it has to be Tron Legacy.
Ooh, I remember seeing that one IMAX 3D.
Bro, when I tell you it's such an underdog movie, but the soundtrack makes it all worth it.
Oh, that Daft Punk soundtrack is pretty beastly.
It's the first and only soundtrack they've ever had made themselves, and it is absolutely iconic.
I couldn't think of a better freaking combination between Tron and Daft Punk. Like, that is truly something special.
All right, man. You got it? You got yours?
Ooh, starting off number 3. Man, going off all the movies in my head. If we're going true underdogs on it, I'm talking about like movies that most people probably never even heard of or ever watched in their life. A little movie called Strange Brew.
Strange
Rick,
Brew. I have actually not heard that.
Rick Moranis, man. It's seriously the best Canadian movie you'll ever watch in your life. It's the most Canadian movie you'll watch, man. Like, it's these two. As funny as it sounds, man, it's about like these two crazy Canucks that freaking they try to trick their local beer shop into giving them free beer. Say, put a rat in a beer bottle and say, hey, let me get some beer. Let me get a free case of beer. And of course, get rejected. You know what they do? They go straight to that source. They go straight to the brewing factory, and all kinds of chaos ensues.
I'm looking at the movie right now. 83.
Oh, it is comedy gold, man.
Now, okay. Considering such, I gotta say something.
Mm-hmm.
Offer up. I'm sorry for everyone who's the 80s kid, but y'all were creepy. 80s was a creepy decade.
Man, why are you gonna be hating on people from the 80s? What you got against them, huh?
It's not that I don't like it. It's just that to me, the creepiest of all decades has to be the 80s. When y'all have that 80s synth orchestration for movies, I'm sorry, but Scarface, to me, the only thing that made Scarface at all scary was the soundtrack.
Man, you probably just offended half the audience right here.
I just gotta say again, it's not that I just don't it's not hate. It's just I can't. I can't with how creepy it is sometimes, man. I had to say that.
You're the only person that I've ever heard call any time period creepy. I mean, 80s is one of the most iconic time periods in all of history.
Yeah, man. I'm I discovered this recently too. That's the thing. This isn't all information. I realize more so now that the 80s had a lot of creepy stuff more than any other decade, any other recent decade in the 20th century.
Like what?
like I said, number one, 80 Cent is weird. That to me was always creepy. Oh, and then another thing, man. I saw this show and I couldn't with this show. It's called Datamax.
Never heard of that.
It is a they put this on TV. It is a real show. I don't know if it's a reality or show or what, but it was weird, bro.
Datamax, huh?
Yeah. It's 80s dating videotapes. When I tell you that junk was like it was creepy.
Look this up. I've never heard of this. I can't even find it on here. What the world?
Yeah, you gotta look up like the actual show because it was a TV series.
Yeah, I look. Can't even find it on IMDb anywhere on here.
You put date and then A Max.
Oh,
It's also
Date A
all
Max.
date A Max. Yeah, that's the.
No, that's from 2012. Yeah, I don't. I can't find it on here. I just found it from 2012.
Yeah, I think that's it right there. Because I think wait, let me see.
2012, 2013. Date A Max.
Yeah,
Yeah, that's 2012.
it's based on the 80s.
Hmm.
That was creepy. But the thing was, again, it's like you think, oh, it's not as creepy as other stuff. But to me, it was the music they had behind it. It was just I couldn't like actively just enjoy the footage as it being any bit of funny. Because to me, like every single person seemed creepy.
I mean, it may have been trying to intentionally be creepy.
I don't think so. That's the thing. I don't think so. I think it was trying to be funny because that's what I'm getting on YouTube. YouTube thinks it's funny, man.
Interesting.
Yeah, but that's enough of that, man.
I'll have to check that out later. I'm very curious now. I probably don't want to, but I'm very curious.
I'm gonna have to watch it again. Myself now. But yeah, that's what I think.
Is that number 2 on your list?
Number two, have to acknowledge, arguably, but most definitely, arguably, the best series of movies ever. Star Wars, specifically. I know half of the fans are gonna be no, what are you doing? What are you talking? Episode 2, bro.
Mm.
And I say that because Star Wars The Clone Wars to this day, favorite animated series ever.
Mm. See, going for the prequels, are we? I mean, I like the prequels, but except for episode 1. Episode 1, if you want to talk about creepy, we going for straight up. We're going for that Looney Tune of a character that freaking George Lucas loved so very much for some reason.
Yeah. We don't even gotta say his
We
name, bro.
we 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 not gonna say the name, but everybody knows him.
Yeah, if you know, you're definitely a part of the
If
people who know.
if you know, you want to forget.
Yeah, you can't. Because even in Clone Wars, man, that man was a buffoon. Absolute buffoon in Clone Wars.
They should let him stay dead. They really should have, or let him die at least something. Golly, man.
Yeah. All right. Next up, man. What's your number 2?
Number 2, a very very tough one. It's a very very tough one. I mean, got a good handy list here of the top favorites of all time. But no, just to differentiate it, I think I'm gonna have to go for La La Land. Just
La La Land.
gotta go for La La Land, man. You know, I know not everybody's into musicals, but just the soundtrack, the visuals, the cinematography, the actors,
See,
top notch for me.
now I have to watch this movie. I've heard so many people, oh yeah, I know it sounds goofy or whatever, but you gotta watch La La Land. You gotta watch La La Land.
I'm telling you, I was not a fan of musicals until I watched that movie. That La La Land is what changed my whole perspective on musicals. And now it's number 6 on my list of all time. It just completely changed it. Like it takes the musical genre from being silly and goofy and just kind of boring, forgettable. It elevates it to like I'll put it this way, like it got nominated for Best Picture for a reason. Like, because I can name several songs off the top of my head off the soundtrack. You take controversial statement here, but West Side Story from last year, couldn't name a single freaking song off the soundtrack. It was an all right movie, but I couldn't name you anything off of freaking that soundtrack.
Yeah, that's crazy. A lot of singers. Well, one thing I learned is a lot of singers, a lot of people, like a lot of singers. Most of them know one or two songs off of West Side Story, or I've heard most of the songs from West Side Story and remember them.
I
So
mean,
that's yeah, dang.
I saw the movie opening night, and even I can't remember it. It was a good movie, but it wasn't memorable. La La Land is a movie I can watch at least once a week and never get tired of it.
Yeah, golly.
You have if you've never seen it, you have to watch it. I'm telling you right now. Even if you absolutely hate musicals, you will find at least one thing about that movie that you absolutely love.
Dang.
I'm telling you right now, man, it will change your perspective on musicals.
All right. So I'm gonna check that out then.
Absolutely.
All right.
The big one now, the number one movie. Number one. It's a tough one. Very tough one. The
Yeah.
number one movie that you could watch forever that's your absolute favorite movie. I know you don't have favorites, but I'm sure everybody has a favorite movie.
Nah, see, I'm not one for favorites, but the number one movie, I say the number one movie I'd recommend for anyone and everyone. Mm. All right, let me talk through it for you. It has to number one be just memorable. It has to be something everyone knows of.
Mm.
Number two, it has to be number two.
Number one, not number two.
No, I'm saying I'm talking about like number two. This movie has to be something that everyone will. It has to be timeless. That's number two.
Mm.
And number three, it's got to be a movie that it's too good to do once. The number one movie I strongly recommend, preferably if you watch certain things beforehand. But the number one movie has to be Avengers.
Okay.
You have to watch Avengers.
Okay. Okay. I was not expecting a little bit of the MCU to come in here, but absolutely welcomed. Absolutely welcomed.
There's just so much that happens before and after it that you just cannot deny from Avengers.
Absolutely one. It's absolutely one of the most memorable movies of the past decade now, which is crazy to say that it came out 10 years ago, almost.
That's yeah. Now almost yeah. Never mind, 10 years.
Yeah, it's absolutely insane now. Because I mean, like 10 years later, I can still name many memorable moments from just that movie alone. I mean, we got Loki. I mean, that's the secret. I'm always angry. Like just the Hulk just smashing Loki on the ground.
Right. To this day, they still meme it.
It's amazing. Like you
Yeah.
can't. It's absolutely one of the greatest team up movies of all time.
Yeah, the craziest part about it is every character in that movie was introduced in some way beforehand.
Yeah,
And then to top it all off with a a preview of what's coming up that then becomes one of the greatest hits of all time with Endgame. Come on now.
my God, man. Like if I could just redo experiencing the MCU for the first time again, just the sheer excitement, the amazing visuals, the amazing movies in general. It's just if you were not there for it, you missed out on an amazing time. Just in general for the MCU.
Yeah, man. That's
Like to this,
um,
I still remember watching Iron Man 1 at a drive-in double feature. Love it or hate it, but I still love Indiana Jones Kingdom of Crystal Skull, and it was a double feature between that and the first Iron Man at the drive-in, and not knowing that was going to bleed up to the MCU, the movie still stood out on its own. But seeing what came after, seeing what the first Iron Man started, is
and
true.
most of all, which is what I think was one of the biggest things about the MCU, actual development of characters throughout different movies.
And even just the development in just that one single movie, Avengers, was amazing.
Yeah. And every single character developed into something so different by Endgame that it's just you have to at least watch that movie if you ever want to start watching movies from the MCU.
I mean, for me, like just having your number one be Avengers, I would just say just the MCU in general is something I think everybody would love and needs to experience. Because
Yeah.
I mean, whether you love comic book movies or hate comic book movies, the MCU has something for everybody to love and enjoy.
Yeah.
Because
And yeah, as much as you may hate it, Cobra, but look, if you are like purely looking for straight up laughs, even Thor Ragnarok, which arguably to some people was one of the lower end movies, that movie was a really good comedy.
I mean, yes, I'm not the biggest Thor fan, but I have come around to liking Thor a lot more than I did 10 years ago from Avengers. Like just seeing his development in general over the past 10 plus years
Yeah.
is amazing. And I'm looking forward to the new Thor movie because I actually do want to see that. Not only for Christian Bale in there and the returning characters and returning Taika Waititi, but to look forward to see what happens to Thor, what happens in that movie. Like, I'm looking forward to it for the first time. Like, not once have I ever been looking forward to a Thor movie of all times, of all things. But just, it's just been, the experience in the MCU in general has just been one of the highlights of my life. It's just been amazing to see how it started to where it got to how it got to now.
Yep. Yep. Definitely. Yeah. That's it for movies. In terms of a series, there's there's no there's no movie series that's had more development in an entire universe than Marvel. And despite what Disney may have done here and there, it's still one of the best, and if not the best series of movies and the best universe ever created in film.
It really is. I mean, that's a hard one to top. That because overall, that would probably be both of our number ones is just the MCU in general.
Yeah.
Because I mean that it truly is my favorite like franchise as a whole, and probably never will be beat, just because of the amount of movies, the amount of development, just everything's top notch.
Yeah.
Of course, every series has its lows, but even the lows for the MCU is miles above other series.
Yeah.
Miles above. I mean, not to trash anybody, but look at the DCEU for crying out loud. It has some good movies, but it's less than a handful of decent ones in that one.
Yeah.
But go ahead, go
So
ahead.
yeah, moving on from the best film franchise, your number one movie, everyone should at least watch once. An S tier at its finest.
S tier at its finest for everybody. Man, that's took the cake for the MCU. But oh man, going to a totally different series, probably like polar opposites almost, but not really at the same time. It's still sorcery and stuff, but come on, Harry Potter and Sorcerer's Stone. What a franchise that one is too, man. Like so many great introductions to characters that we know and love now. Not as much the MCU, but just memorable characters. I mean, even Harry, Hermione, freaking Ron,
Yeah.
Hagrid, Dumbledore. Just so many great, amazing character development just that one movie alone. And again, to see how it spawned many, many more films that are still continuing to this day. Even spinoffs, a whole theme park section.
Yeah. And they were the 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 golden egg for Universal, considering that not only did they essentially boom in their theme park just from creating that section, but ever since they've released those movies, there's just been way too many people rewatching that movie because of just how good it is as a series.
For sure. I mean, I was very, very young when I first experienced that series in general. But the moment I saw Sorcerer's Stone, I knew it was going to be top of one of the highest of my list. That's just the Harry Potter series in general is second on my top favorites franchises. I mean, it's an amazing series of movies in general, just like the MCU. Just
Yeah,
amazing.
yeah. And the thing was, it's not even that long. You don't even have to watch it for, you don't have to be invested for who knows how many months or even a year to be invested into this into the movies or just the series in general. And they did a very good job of bringing the books to film in a way that both fans and people who haven't read the books to both confidently say they're very good adaptations.
Like I never read any of the books. I still to this day have not read any of the books. I remember getting Half Blood Prince when it first came out, but I when I was a lot younger, I didn't read a whole lot of longer books like that. So I mean, I'm sure I still have the book somewhere, but I've never read it. You know? But like I said, the franchise in general is just it's truly a masterpiece of its genre, I guess. But same time, MCU would still be top that in the genre because in a way, like the fantasy genre, it goes hand in hand with MCU and Harry Potter. But it's to get back on topic though. It's anybody just like the MCU could pick that up and watch it and be entertained, whether you know about the books or not, or even if you're not really a fantasy person, you would still.
Hmm.
I feel like you could get invested just by the character development in those movies, the humor, the like over the course of many movies, you love the characters for who and how they are.
Okay. Yeah. That's yeah, I think a lot of people, including myself, definitely say that about Harry Potter, specifically the movies. But moving on to the second tier list. Now, this isn't just a certain one song, but one album that you think, or sorry, but three albums that you think should be just considered top of the leaderboards and top of the watch list or the listen queue when it comes to any person who hasn't heard of these albums. I'll start with number three being um hmm,
It's a tough one.
see now I can't remember it.
It's very tough with your.
I was gonna say something, but that's not number three. Uh oh, definitely. Um the same reasoning why it's my why Tron is my number three. But if you haven't listened to Daft Punk, if you don't know electronic music, and you haven't really just listened to any soundtrack, the Tron soundtrack is amazing. It's the perfect fusion between electronic and and acoustic instrumental or orchestration. It just there's no way you could have synths and string instruments be orchestrated in a better sequence as of right now. I don't think there's anyone who does it better than the Daft Punk did for Tron.
For sure. Yeah. Rest in, like they're not dead, but rest in peace to Daft Punk in general for the breakup that happened pretty recently.
Yeah, man, that's crazy.
What a true legacy that they left behind.
Yeah, and like I think last year they actually released the deluxe edition for Tron Legacy, the album. Best believe I listened to it. But basically all of the records that they no longer were all the mixes that they've done surrounding Tron, they just didn't release. They finally released almost, if not every single recording of.
Hmm.
So I definitely say check that out. Um, since it has all of the different songs in it, and then obviously they had reconfigured, which some of the songs got remixed too.
It's a solid soundtrack. It's a very solid soundtrack, and again, like I said, the legacy that Daft Punk left behind is incredible. Even if you don't know who Daft Punk is, I guarantee you've heard a Daft Punk song in your life somewhere.
Yeah, yeah. You live long enough, you've definitely heard one.
Because I mean, there's a ton of songs that they did that constantly to this day are still being played
Yeah,
close to
yeah. That's
20
the thing
years.
about them. They're well, they basically are an old duo now, but they still get they still either a make more records that get Grammys or something of the sort, or you've heard them numerous times beforehand.
And tons and tons and tons and tons and tons of bands being influenced by Daft Punk
Definitely, yeah,
or sampling Daft Punk or featuring Daft Punk. It's countless amounts of bands.
yeah,
Even outside of the electro and dance music, I mean, I guarantee you there's several metal bands even.
yeah, yeah. Yeah. One example is Kanye has two songs. One of them unreleased, but Stronger is a sample from Daft Punk's Harder, Better, Faster, Stronger.
Yeah. The amount of times I've heard that song just going listening to the radio, endless amount of times, hundreds of times throughout my life.
All right, moving on. Your third most likely recommendation in terms of an album.
You know, this one's not going to be for a lot of people, but it's an album that has gotten me through a lot of hard times in my life. It's Where I Go When I'm Sleeping by a band called Casey, which again is a band that's broken up pretty recently. Just an amazing, powerful album. Just well, even if you're not into hardcore slash metal, it that whole album is just mental health, just screaming out, crying for help, basically. It's just it makes you think and really try to experience things or think of things within your life differently than they really are.
Mm. Repeat that
Amazing.
one more time.
It's an album called, let's see here. It was called Where I Go When I Am Sleeping by Casey.
I actually never heard of that album.
That doesn't surprise me one bit since you're not really into the metal like that.
Yeah, I haven't. I don't think I've heard of Casey. I don't remember him at least. But yeah, I'll definitely add it to the codex.
I guarantee you it's not one you're gonna like. You're just gonna be screamed at for 41 minutes
Yeah.
constantly. Like it's not like Death Bell screaming. It's just like someone just normally screaming, basically.
Okay.
Yeah.
I'll still check out the first song at least.
Oh
We'll see.
yeah, for sure, for sure. It's a great album, fantastic album.
All right.
Number two,
Number two. Um, Number two is a hard one.
for me, 3 and 1 is easy. It's just that middle slot,
Right.
always the toughest, always
Right.
the
Because I
toughest.
have my number one, but number two, man,
Yeah, I gotta really think about that one too.
I'd say Because the Internet
Oh
by
boy.
Childish Gambino.
Mm.
Now, granted, you've most likely heard one song from the album if you know who Childish Gambino is. Um, it's basically his one album that blew him up as an artist, and ever since that album released, man, it's just been straight uphill from there. I've found out about him, found out that he was also a comedian, and then just kept on listening to his music and absolutely loved it. I mean, to this day, I think Childish Gambino is one of the best artists of all time, strictly because he makes music that's not uh, basically formulated. He doesn't make the same music as everyone else, and it's to a point that he's inspired so many people. I'm guessing Tyler, the Creator, and basically so many artists that try to make music that isn't normal for anyone that's listened to music in the last 30 to 40 years. So yeah, again, it's an album that he's not only blown up from, but I still can listen to it just front to back, and it's literally the only album by him that I've listened to so much that can pretty much just just name every song by like probably the first minute.
Mm.
So yeah, moving on to your number two.
Number two. No, that's a very, very, very tough one. Very tough one. But I think overall, I have to go with "A Beautiful Lie" by 30 Seconds to Mars.
Mmm. 30 Seconds to Mars is an absolutely amazing band. I didn't realize how basically amazing like their discography is until recently when I realized more and more songs were actually by them.
I mean, love him or hate him, you can't deny that Jared Leto is an incredible musician. Like you, you,
Yeah,
you watch some of his movies, you would not expect this dude can freaking sing and make out some bangers. Like early
yeah,
early 2000s, 30 Seconds to Mars was amazing, and songs are still being played off the album. Like "A Beautiful Lie," "The Kill," "From Yesterday."
Edge of the Earth.
"Edge of the Earth" is on a different album. That's a great song as well.
Oh my bad. I'm not looking at the album. Let me look. Let me look at the album.
Like "A Beautiful Lie" is by far my favorite album by them. There's absolutely something for everybody on that album. you may hate the band, you may hate Jared Leto, but you're gonna love some songs off the album because 2005 was the year of 30 Seconds to Mars for as far as that album goes. It was amazing. I mean, although I didn't get into the album until 5 or 6 years after it came out, but it definitely influenced and shaped a lot of my music taste and introduced me to a lot of other bands.
Yep, gotta add that one to the. Well, okay, yeah, I'm gonna add this one to the codex because I haven't listened to 30 Seconds to Mars as much as I thought I had or thought I would.
Oh yeah, it's you're definitely gonna have a good time with that album for sure. It's one of those feel good albums for a good afternoon or just a relaxing evening like now. This is a really good feel good album, and a lot of the songs will get stuck in your head for sure.
Yeah, I definitely gotta um add that album and another album that they did. I can't remember what it's called. Oh, yep, their debut album. That's why I don't remember it.
Yes, another amazing one.
Cause Edge of the Earth, man, I had so many memories of that from Need for Speed Hot Pursuit.
I absolutely love that first album. It's, I mean, Edge of the Earth, freaking The Mission, Echelon, Buddha for Mary, Capricorn. I mean, arguably, the first album had a lot more good songs, but overall, A Beautiful Lie is a better album to me.
All right, moving on to number one soundtrack to me has to be Star Wars. The mere fact that you build entire worlds uh, in
Which
terms of
one?
music in episode was it? See, now I gotta look this up.
Call yourself a Star Wars fan. Don't even know which one it is. No, I'm just kidding.
Well, no, because I can't remember. Because the thing was, episode 4 and episode 5 were amazing albums, but there's specifically one where they travel to more planets, and I can't remember which one that was.
Which one? New Hope, Return of the Jedi.
It's either 4 or 5.
Empire Strikes Back.
Oh, yep, that's what I did. Helps to write out the full thing. See, I call myself lacking.
Perfectly all right. First episode. First episode is always the, I guess, quote unquote, the test run. That's perfectly all right. Sometimes you got to do a little bit of research.
Okay.
So what about that soundtrack really shaped your life and helped you out and made you how you are?
It's just an album, or sorry, a soundtrack that not only you can't beat it, it has so many um it has so many ideas from that movie that people have taken and been inspired by. For instance, number one, uh Mandalorian, that soundtrack was phenomenal. Mainly because Ludwig Göransson, I think, has to be the the next greatest um next greatest composer
Mm.
of time. Specifically because he went to Africa to actually record what was going to be um my I say my third. Well, no, it's tied for second between another one, but basically Black Panther album, the Black Panther soundtrack album, along with the the what's the album by Kendrick Lamar himself. Those two paired so well that that's my third favorite series of soundtracks of music, just music, a series of music. But again, Star Wars. I say this the whole um what's the word the whole series has an amazing soundtrack, but specifically Episode 4. That's that was to me the best soundtrack I've probably ever heard. Um, yeah, in my life, and it's really what makes Star Wars that much better to me. It just again it on top of it honestly being my favorite series of movies of all time. The soundtrack just makes it that much more solidified because you have Clone Wars making what I think is the second uh, the second best theme of them remixing or basically remaking the Star Wars theme into uh, basically just a new song, even though it carries the same theme. And then there's just so much about it from that point on that I can just go on about. So you're moving on again. Your number one recommending album soundtrack of music.
No, number one was absolutely the easiest, because it's an album that I'm so glad I got to experience in full live. I mean, mine is of course missing one key member, but it's a some of the songs off this album just truly shaped my childhood. I mean, probably shouldn't have been listening to some of it, but it's just it's an album that songs dominated a lot of the early like teen movies of the early 2000s. Talking about "Enema of the State" by Blink 182. What an album!
Blink
What
182.
what can I say about the album that has already been said? I mean, it is truly a masterpiece of an album. Like so many great songs, like "What's My Age Again," "Ab Song," all the small things, like "Dumpweed," "Aliens Exist." Just so many amazing songs that constantly still get used in movies to this day. But like when I was a kid, I wasn't I was a skater boy at heart, basically. Like I wasn't. I had a skateboard, but that me as a skateboarder didn't last very long at all. But as far as like music wise, pop punk, skater skater and pop punk music was absolutely my go to cup of tea for those.
Yeah. Now, I personally can't remember any songs I personally enjoyed by them. Mostly because it's been quite a while since I listened to Blink 82.
Mm.
So yeah, again, that album has to go up to the codex. For those of you, you most obviously don't know what the codex is. It is a playlist of music that basically Cobra has been recommending me because me and him obviously have very different uh, favorites in terms of going to music that we'd probably be listening to. So I've asked him like some recommendations, and he has definitely shown me some amazing albums and some albums that, even though very amazing, I probably won't be listening to. So uh, it's been it's been a
A journey.
yeah, a great one at that. It's an amazing roller coaster of music he's been recommending, and now I have two more. Uh, well, actually no, yeah, two more playlists or two more albums.
It might as well be a second playlist with the amount of I've given you within the past 2 weeks.
Yeah, it's definitely gonna be. I might have to name them by year, to be honest.
More than likely.
Yeah, that's it's gonna be. It's still going on now, so well, I guess it's gonna have to be a thing where I state what album from that codex I've been listening to.
I think it should be a weekly thing. I think every week you name one album that you've listened to every week.
I say I should have listened to this earlier. Definitely should have listened to this earlier, but um, the new album by Grayscale,
Umbra.
yeah, Umbra. That
Uh,
album, goodness, it's such an amazing album. The
have you
first song, I once that first song had played, I knew that I would not be able to get off of this album without being amazed.
now have you listened to Nella Vita yet? Their first album, or not first album, but like their second album.
No, I've not. What's it called again?
Nella Vita.
Yeah, yeah. You recommend that was the first album you recommended, I think.
Gotcha. Okay.
Yeah,
Because
that was the first. Yeah, the first one, man. Goodness, just it's a banger. Has to be.
absolutely.
Oh my gosh, Baby Blue will always be a staple in is it punk rock?
Pop
Yeah,
punk.
it's punk rock.
Pop punk.
Pop funk. My bad.
Pop punk. Pop punk.
Punks. Wow. What? The thing is, I knew it was pop punk, but I'm tired. Is what I'm gonna say to that. So, um, yeah. Moving on to now that I have a headache, the last tier list we're gonna have to go through. Um, the most highly recommended of games.
Oh, we're going to be going across genres for this one for sure.
Yeah, most definitely. Cause golly, has my list probably changed? Yeah, has my list changed?
Mine changes about every year. It seems like.
I will start first by saying number 3, Skyrim is an amazing RPG. When I say Skyrim does RPG right, it's crazy how far gaming has gone from Dungeons and Dragons to Skyrim, which is essentially the the modern video game adaptation to Dungeons and Dragons.
And the fact that I had to convince you to get this recently.
Well, yeah, yeah. I'm not even gonna I'm not even gonna deny it. You did have to convince me to actually pull the trigger on this one. I just didn't believe that a game could hook me for more than 100 hours. But I flew through 60 hours easily. No shame. And most importantly, no regrets. So that's number 3 for me. Cobra, let's hear yours.
Number 3 for me is probably not going to surprise you. More than likely not going to surprise you at all. One of, arguably, one of the greatest games of all time, but also, god dang, do we need a sixth one? GTA 5, for crying out loud.
Oh my gosh. The history of GTA 5.
Good
Now,
God, man.
for those of you listening, GTA 5 is essentially the one game that has brought me some of the best memories of last year.
Oh my gosh, man.
Now, for the majority of you who have already played this game from years, started from most likely 2013, if not 2014, I did not and was not able to get this game until late 2020. The reason being, one, just for those of you who know what it is, I was not allowed. Most of y'all can already tell why that game would not be one of the games that I was allowed. But when I was, when late 2020 came around, I decided I'm too old to not have this game at this point because that was the third third game that I always wanted but was never allowed to get. Um, that will be for another episode. But
Shoot, we can probably do a whole episode on just the history of GTA 5.
yeah, all I'm gonna say is Cobra. Yeah, that's a solid. Yeah, it can't get any more solid than that.
Come on, Rockstar. Where's GTA 6 at, man? We need it. We need it. It's almost been 9 years and we still ain't got it yet.
Yeah, yeah. Oh, uh, the reason why I said all this is me and Cobra actually met because both of us just wanted to play GTA. Surprisingly, at the same time, and through a different medium, we uh, matchmake outside of the game,
Well,
and
technically, it was through other people.
Yep, yep, yep. One person basically like had matchmake with both of us, and we were the first three out of four to matchmake with each other, I believe.
And now it seems we're the only two schmucks still talking to each other.
Yeah, yeah. So yeah, like he said, that definitely comes close to being one of mine.
I mean, shoot, I remember 2013 when it first got announced. Immediately pre-ordered on PS3. Immediately pre-ordered. No, I was not even. Well, I shouldn't say not close. I was a few years from shouldn't be able to play this game. But god dang, was I playing that game when it came out, and it was so much fun. I still remember it like it was yesterday. Just amazing masterpiece of a game when it came
It
out
is.
that still holds up almost 9 years later. Still getting content. Just amazing. Like what else can is there to be said about GTA 5 that has already been said over the past almost 9 years?
Yeah, just the past 5 years, so many people have come back to this game, played it, and either were disappointed or really loved the content that they added, and then just didn't play it for more than 3 months because because yeah, unless it was like the heist, the last 5 years were kind of slightly strenuous. Obviously, the biggest two DLCs I think were the Cayo Perico heist and um, the contract. Yeah. Once they said Dr. Dre, I was already hooked. And then they said, "Oh no, it's not just Dr. Dre. We got Dr. Dre, Anderson Paak, even Snoop Dogg, all trying to get on one album." And with the release of new content was going to be premiered. That's crazy.
Amazing game. At this pace, probably talking about it another 9 years.
It's gonna reach a decade. It's
It,
got to reach a decade.
it'll more than likely reach a decade at this point. But I'm hoping out hope we at least get some sort of announcement for GTA 6 in the coming year.
Yeah, again, that's not gonna happen till at least next year.
Yeah, I don't see an announcement till late next year. But here's hoping.
Yeah, with how long it took for them to get Red Dead 2 going, and then confirming Red Dead 3, which won't come out for at least another 5 years, 5 to 10 years.
And at this point, they've pretty much all but given up on Red Dead 2. It seems like.
Yep, them DLCs are slowing very fast. So yeah, uh,
you're now your great number two.
great number two. Ah,
Hardest slot. Hardest slot. For me, it's the top three is easy. It's easy. It's always been my top three. Everything else changes in my list, but those top three have held strong.
hmm. Man, top three. So it said Skyrim already, which that sweet number three.
Mm-hmm.
That came in on its last um last what do you call it? Last DLC, and just absolutely taken out number three previous to that.
What would be
If
that
you
honorable mention for number four?
Yeah. I can't remember what would number 3 be, and that's not what I'm not about to put the brain power to right now. So number 2, oh man,
Hardest one on the list.
yeah, I'm gonna have to say Marvel's Ultimate Alliance 1.
Oh, that's a solid one. That is a very, very solid one. I
To
never
this
played that one.
day, it is the only game I never actually truly played and completed, but I've played the game so much that it's actually a wonder why I have never beaten the game. I've played it so much, but I can't remember ever beating the game from start to finish.
I remember playing that on GameCube back in the day.
Because I think I've played through all the levels, but again, I can't remember. It was just so long, but I loved it.
It definitely is an amazing game for sure. A
Yeah,
lot of
it's a game that will always hold dear to my heart.
I spent a lot of couch co-op on that game. A lot of couch co-op. Even more on the second one.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I remember. Yeah, there's just so many memories from that game alone. All right, moving on to your number 2.
Not much to say about the number 2. It's another classic, very, very original PlayStation classic. In fact, game that I grew up when I was just 3, 4 years old playing on the original PlayStation. Crash Bandicoot.
Hmm.
The OG classic. Absolute masterpiece of a game. There's so many hours spent at my aunt's house on my cousin's PS1, just absolutely raging on some of them levels in that game. But it will always hold near and dear to my heart on, and what really got me into PlayStation was that game.
Wow. Yeah. For me, man, uh, that that series I wasn't really in. I wasn't really deep into until a certain game that for some of y'all who know, you definitely remember this game. And what caused me to hate Nitro for with a burning passion,
Mm-hmm. I think I know what's coming up on this one.
Crash Tag Team Racing, man.
Absolutely.
Crash Tag Team Racing. I when I heard that Nitro Team Racing wasn't the same game, I was so mad. And I should have known it wasn't the same game, but still. Yeah.
Come on, where's that remaster for Crash Tag Team Racing?
We need that remaster, man.
We need that remaster. Remake something. We need it. We absolutely need that.
That game was just it was too good to me. Just too good to let die like that. All right. Number
Now,
one.
the hardest choice. You're number one.
Nah, this is not hard at all. This game started a whole lot of it started so much. All different mechanics based on this game coming out and absolutely smashing all the charts for a good couple of years. Assassin's Creed Brotherhood
Oh.
was the number one game I never played but wanted to so badly. I watched the entire gameplay and proceeded to watch Assassin's Creed from that point on.
Bit of a confession that will shock some people. Never played it. Never played Brotherhood. Never played Assassin's Creed 2. I I mean, the only ones I can only think of that I played was First One, Revelations, and Black Flag. That's the only 3 I've ever played for Assassin's Creed.
Mm, yeah, I just wanted to play Brotherhood so bad. Number one, them creating in a whole economy system, absolutely brilliant idea. The game being open world, already game changing, and then the multiplayer topping it off with uh, a predator versus prey game mode that absolutely blew everyone away. And from that point on, Assassin's Creed couldn't do anything else better in terms of multiplayer.
Mm-hmm.
Ubisoft couldn't let it go. To this day, they still can't let it go, which at this point they might need to, depending on this next game. Um,
I definitely saw a lot of gameplay for it when it was first announced and coming out, but for whatever reason, I just never played it. I mean, I know I wanted to, but I just never picked it up or got it. There's always another game that I wanted more or played more.
hmm.
It's definitely like a master class of its genre for sure.
Yeah,
A lot
yeah.
of even to this day, I'm sure a lot of developers look towards just the Assassin's Creed franchise as a whole.
Again, it completely changed action adventure games from that point on.
It really did, yeah.
So yeah, that's it. That's number one. Your number one game to recommend any person to play.
I don't think you're gonna have any argument for this one. Another PlayStation classic game. Another Naughty Dog game, in fact. Last of Us.
Mm.
If you want to talk
Oh,
about an absolute like masterpiece, a movie within a video game, basically a playable movie.
perfection.
Perfection, top-notch acting, amazing graphics, amazing story, emotional. If you do not shed a tear for that game, you literally have no soul or heart. Like that's just a fact. It is truly an amazing, amazing top of its genre game.
A game for years has rocked every single person who's played. I say it is the number one game that that everyone who has not played will dearly miss. Cause yeah, it's just you can't you
It,
can't get better than that game's story. The game's soundtrack was even amazingly done, and the graphics, mechanics, the acting, as you said about all of it, it's just perfection.
just like it's truly even a game that directors for actual movies will look at is this is what I want my movie to be. This is what I want my game to be.
Right.
Like
And for them making a movie about it,
or TV show.
oh, it's a TV show. My bad.
Yeah, TV show. Pedro Pascal.
Yep, yep. Definitely heard that. Well, I looked up the cast, even though I can't remember it now. But yeah, we'll just have to see for that series.
Yeah, I'm hoping that it's gonna be good, but it's not going to compare to the games at all. It's not going to be even close.
Yeah, to be honest, for me, I feel like with games you can't. Once it becomes a game, you can't top it if it's really done masterfully.
I mean, in my opinion, despite what everybody may think, everybody hates this movie, but to me, the one movie that did it best for gaming, as far as adapting a franchise into a movie, Assassin's Creed. Despite everybody hates the movie, I know, but to me, it was the best adaptation.
Yeah, as I said to you, Cobra, many times before, Ubisoft did all they could. As much as we all want to write out Ubisoft for making this game, they couldn't do better. They couldn't. There's no way you can make a movie about Altair because the story is way too long for you to make a movie about. It has to be a series. Ezio Auditore, the same thing, even longer lifetime of being an assassin. And then what? You're gonna have the Kenways? No, because you'd have a whole lot to explain if you made a movie about any of the Kenways. Connor, Edward, Hatham. There's just too much going on there for you to explain in one movie. So again, as I said before, they did the best they could. Made it. I think it was during the Spanish Renaissance.
Yeah.
They made a completely new character, had it set at Abstergo, and did the best they could with the the movie that to me is just its own genre
Mm.
because the universe is just too far out.
I wish
Yeah.
we could have gotten a sequel, but the movie didn't make enough money, which very unsurprisingly for video game movies.
I think, yeah. I was gonna say, I can't. Nah, they shouldn't make a sequel. If anything, they should have done what they did in the game in the first place and actually given us um uh a show by Abstergo. I think the show was going to be called Helix, if I'm correct. But they
Mhm.
should have gave us Helix. That would have been it. To have a show based on these adventures streamed live from the brains of their descendants.
I think the show would have had to have that. That would have been a required multiple season order, just because I think in each season you would have to tell the story of each different assassin, because that's not
Mm.
you can't. It just wouldn't be possible if you just split a few episodes for one assassin. Like if you really want to give it character development, give it depth, build the world to people that don't know the game, don't know that world. Give
Yeah,
it,
I definitely agree with you. It has to be multiple seasons. It
it
would definitely have to be multiple seasons, but I think they could have done well with a partial anthology, specifically like what they did in What If, where there's many different stories and they tie them all together in some way. Now, my only problem with What If was one, it was entirely unrealistic in terms of almost all the characters, and to me, it just wasn't done well. It just wasn't done well. But I definitely think you could have pulled it off, done something about all the characters to make a off, basically authentic semi anthology.
I think what what would have been the central tie to everything would be the main character whose brain that we would be going into. Like I think his family would have that long lineage of Altair, Ezio, and the Conways, everything. I think I mean, just for storytelling's sake, they would make it all make sense into his family has nothing but assassins, pretty much, and then that would all tie it together by like a few seasons in.
Mm. Yeah, but see, like I think because the primary subject they had for the majority of the assassins was Desmond, right? Other than Desmond, it was just the Kenways and then a few people here and there.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I think they couldn't make something like Desmond again. I'd have to disagree with them making uh, uh, um, basically a series that follows the same character progression as Desmond does. Um, Mostly because you just you can't make something that deep in terms of story, in terms of entire world. You can't make something that goes so far deep in the lore of even games after Revelations. You can't just make that into a series that everyone can comprehend and be along with if they haven't played the game. And that's what Ubisoft needs to do. They have to make things more so for the people who haven't played their games. Because again, no one's gonna play through 30 plus hours of a game to watch 2 to 4 hours of content.
Yeah. One person to get away with that is Kojima.
Yeah, they do. Yeah, Kojima, he makes the some of the best games out there.
Very weirdest, but some of the best for sure.
Yeah, Metal Gear Solid is to me, you cannot you cannot make a weirder a weirder game. You have to do everything Kojima did and add something that's just way far out there. And again, you can't really do that. Yeah, it's go ahead.
Oh, I was just saying, yeah, for sure.
Yeah, it's the only game where so many people have stories about. Like I've heard one story of a person who couldn't finish the game the way they wanted to because they lost the game case.
Dang.
Yeah, like why do you need why you think like why would you need the game case for a game that you already have in your system? But Kojima, man, there's all you can say about it. So yeah, I think that covers all of it. It's 12:50. It's almost yeah, it's almost been an hour 25 minutes. Um,
I think that's a pretty good length for the first episode.
yeah, yeah, wonderful recording.
Well, thank you for joining us and listening. And again, this is Cobra,
I am King Merc.
and be back again next week for another episode of the King Cobra podcast. Take care.
Yes, sir.